if my horses had something to say about me, what would they say? And I had so many people respond to me like, I had never thought about that. And that really just opened my eyes to what we don't realize is actually happening in our world. We're so encompassed, like we bring ourselves so internal and we don't pay attention to what like other things, like the awareness of it, including our horses. Like you could see it in every case that showed up to this clinic alone. Yeah. They're a reflection of their owner. So I just think in my life and every day I live it as though it's my last, because I don't know if I have it tomorrow. And I strive to do the same thing for horses and humans, that if I walked away from the world in this timeline, what would others say about me? I would hope that they say when they were around me, they smiled and they laughed and they realized they were capable of anything.
Welcome to the Crystal Zen podcast. I believe our bodies are a living map of the entire universe. All the answers reside within. Remember, you are sovereign, whole, and infinitely valuable. And the best gift we can give to the world is our own healing. Join me as we explore holistic tools, spiritual practices, and paradigms that are shifting the way people experience life, business, and relationships. I love to share education on the most recent medical research and cutting-edge technology on anatomy, neurology, trauma, development, and more to give us a foundation in understanding how to align, utilize, and upregulate our physical systems. Ultimately, this podcast is a witness and support to people on their journey of remembering, an inspiration for all of us to keep going, and a reminder that we are not alone.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Okay,
here we go. Crystal Zen.
Thank you. That was better than my intro. Welcome to the Crystal Zen podcast. You guys, I have not been so excited for a podcast. Well, I don't want to demean my other podcast. I just want to say I am really excited for this podcast because I feel like it is a circling back to not only one of my soul purposes in Dharma, but someone who made a huge impact in my life at a pivotal shift in my life as well, 15 years ago. And so it feels big. Like it feels like this conversation is important and also like vulnerable, and also like I want to share it with my listeners. I love it. And it feels so cool. So thank you for being here.
Thank you for allowing me to be with you. This is so cool.
It is so cool. We'll get into all the things, but yes. If you're a regular listener, you know what we're about to do. Wait, the other way. And if you're a new listener, I just take about 20 to 30 seconds if you've not had an opportunity in your day yet to witness yourself, sit still, connect with spirit, then we'll do that now. So if you're in a space where it's safe to do so, go ahead and close your eyes. Otherwise, just stay primary focus where you need it to be and secondary focus here with your energy. So let's just observe our breath without the need to change anything. Seeing what shows up, paying attention is the power of the observer, and in doing so, things begin to move from entropy to order. And then you might notice a shift in your breath. And when you feel that, go ahead and just allow more space, a longer inhale maybe. Your exhale might even be a sigh if you were holding on. See if you can get real quiet right now in this moment and drop downward and inward towards your heart space. You'll find a little light there, and remember, everything's there for your access when you need it. If you relax and surrender, all the answers begin to appear, almost like you're magnetic. And you can't stop it. It just keeps coming. Things keep showing up. Miracles, alignment, synchronicities. And if you need a few more like, or a little shake, go ahead and do that. And then just come back. So I love that exercise, and I just love the reminder of that tool because we need it multiple times a day sometimes. So just that's always accessible to us. And now we kind of settle in for a beautiful conversation.
It's the only way to be.
Yes. Okay, what do you guys need to know? You guys need to know this is the famous Wylene Wilson.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Why I had this kind of larger than life moment with Wylene was when I had gotten married, I had a baby, and we blew off to go move to Arizona just to start this whole new life. So it was this big transformational period of my life. And it was also transformational in my horsemanship because I had only and always done English. And the themes behind that in my life and personality and horsemanship was just high contact, high control arenas, high pressure performances, trophies, things like that. A lot of comparison. And one of the first people I had met down there, because of the Cowgirls Historical Foundation, was Wylene and a group of cowgirls. And someone had lent me a paint horse, of course. And I had started riding this horse in the Cowgirls Historical Foundation. First time on Western tack. First time in the Western world, first time as a mama, first time being married, trying to figure out who I was, first time in business, and I was doing insurance. And so I just kind of had this eyes wide open, saw Wylene, labeled her as a cowgirl who was lucky enough to be born on a farm. And I was a victim of not being born into the right family in the middle of the city and knew all the things. And you sang and you dressed up beautifully and you spoke beautifully and you had all the gear and equipment and the horses and you rode better than, anyone I'd ever seen in my life. And I just kind of jawed down every time, we rode together. So that was kind of how our paths crossed initially. And I know you're probably giggling at that, but I just wanted to share my perspective, why that was just so inspiring for me. And and that was the year you won
the Mustang Makeover.
The Mustang Makeover.
Okay.
That was that year.
Yeah, that's what I think I'm yearning for is that soul tribe. It goes back to I cannot get it out of my mind about what you said about labels. And I was thinking about it today and I'm I have been so generous with my words. And my love language is words of affirmation. And so I love everybody through my words.
Yes. And I identify with that. And I also identify with the feedback of that energy exchange and what you learn from outputting that much, right? And kind of where your boundaries should and need to be and how you navigate those as they change.
But I do feel that we are soul connected in the sense that we've been in timelines before. It just feels familiar. It feels safe. It feels I know you and I know we're supposed to help each other gain access. You will always help me. I will always help you in that regard of I know I can help you in horsemanship, but I know you can help me in other things that I need help with. I clearly knew that when I was on the phone with you, I was I'm supposed to talk to this girl. She's supposed to help me, but I'm supposed to help her. Yeah. To me, it's such an exchange of experience, if you will.
Yeah. And I've actually been really impressed with how smoothly that's been done because it's not the first time I felt that, but it's a new way. Honestly, it's the first time I felt that where I was at a maturity level and the other person was at a respectful, sovereign maturity level.
Because you're what's your age?
41.
So I'm 44.
Okay.
So we're, very similar. Anyway, even when Sam is saying, I'm yeah, you don't figure things out till you're older anyway.
Yeah. And
I don't really use the word old, I use the word wise.
Oh, I like that so much better.
I'm wise.
I like that so much better.
That is not my world. In my world, we're living big dreams and we're doing big things and we're not complaining. We're saying thank you for this beautiful body and my amazing health and my strength and my ability to heal myself and to bounce back. And
well, that's something I did want to ask you about too, because I delved a lot into moving from the maiden to the mother archetype and also where that crosses into the crone and just some of those ideas and see where you've encountered that because I felt the shift in my body and been I'm it was even when I passed 40 and I was I can do what I want now.
Because you're 40. When's your birthday?
I just had in January. Good memory.
So shift for me was 41 also. 2021 I was 41. That was when I knew I wanted my life to be different. And I started asking for things to align, and then it just did. And it happened so fucking fast.
Yeah.
That I was like, you asked for it, and it showed up. You're welcome. And I was like, Annie up, Wylene, belly to the bar.
Yeah.
Double down. So I just think in my life, and every day I live it as though it's my last, because I don't know if I have it tomorrow. And I strive to do the same thing for horses and humans, that if I walked away from the world in this timeline, what would others say about me? I would hope that they say when they were around me, they smiled and they laughed and they realized they were capable of anything. And so growing up, I think I always had that like sparked wildfire within me, but I was like almost like out of control wildfire. And so I had to learn how to harness that and condense it and pinpoint and focus it. And it's taken me quite some time to do so. So I think the message that I try to share with people is you're always on your way. You can always make a change in your life. You can transform your life. You can transition your life. You can grow and morph and evolve. And if anyone can be capable, it's this girl. If I can do it, you can do it. So I think it's giving people the permission, but also in a clinic type setting, in a lesson type setting, I try to hold that space that I don't see being held in coaching and teaching in the horse community. You get a lot of like yelling and, but I always try to be that soft place to land for people, because I want to be honest with people, but I also want them to know they're loved and supported as they're learning.
Yes. And you do that super well. And I mean, there's so much in what you just said. I'm just like, yes, all the things. And first, I am feeling like I'm stepping into that shift, and I'm glad you said it like that. Because now I have like the feedback. It's like, I have felt that, where it's like, just be present, because you are where you're meant to be, and it's all important, and it's all worth showing up for. And that extra piece that's like just more grounded and just like less peripheral, like chaos and like caring about all the other things. Like that's kind of the shift I'm feeling, which is kind of my intention when you opened up that circle in our clinic this week. That was kind of part of my intention too, which was just like, be authentic. Like,
and then go Crystal 1.0 to Crystal 2.0. And there's a shift somehow in our 40s. Like Julie will tell you it's our genius years. I agree with that. I think that that's where we start to really figure things out and reinvent and rebrand and reconfigure our lives, because now we're aware and we're awake and we're sovereign.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a huge, and I know if I say this, you can relate, and it's so like relatable in general, is that there's just a huge, massive wave of like divine feminine energy and understanding and knowing and like knowledge that's being remembered and recanted and like all like not recanted, brought back to the table, because it's still around. The truth still exists. And so whether it's a horsemanship or lifemanship, I'm always searching for the truth. That's the lie. Now, let me quickly just introduce a little bit of my background. So I grew up in Mesa, Arizona, to a family that had 6 kids, and I came from a pretty religious background. I was raised LDS, and so I had a large family, and we had 17 acres in downtown Mesa, Arizona, on Main Street, that was within our family. So we had our immediate family, and then we had my uncle and his 6 kids, and then my grandmother, and then my aunt and her kids. So it was like a family community. It was a beautiful space. My grandmother started the very first flower shop in the state of Arizona in 1927. So a long time ago. She was kind of, the matriarch behind it all, and was just, if I had to give any credit to the strength that you see within me, it's because I come from a long line of women who were powerhouses, who would outwork any man, and handle things, right? And so early in the 80s, they decided they were going to sell the property. And so the property went into escrow in 85. I was only 5 years old at this time. And then the property fell out of escrow. They ended up not selling it. So my uncle was like, what are we going to do? what are we going to do? How are we going to keep this place afloat? And all that, there was all these questions. And so my mom's like, oh, I know what we're going to do. We're going to build a boarding facility. But let me just tell you, we did not have a barn. We had greenhouses because we owned flowers. We had flowers and we owned a garden and we had all of these things that were geared towards flower shop. But we didn't have a horse boarding facility. So we basically chicken wired and put together whatever scraps we could to build out of the greenhouse this barn. So fast forward, my mom put an ad in the paper that said, we're not fancy, we're fun. We're a do-it-yourself type of a place. Come on, come all. It was $65 for board, $85 to put your horse in pasture. So fast forward a year later, there were over 100 boarders there. And so that offered the opportunity for me to be around a multitude of horses and variety and different disciplines. And there was a revolving door of like, there's so many words I want to say, but there was basically so many opportunities that I had to get on everything that had a heartbeat, 4 legs. And let me tell you, that is where I developed the skill, because I was raised by a mother who wanted to know the truth with horsemanship. And lucky for her, crossed paths with Monte Foreman in the early 60s and really was shown the reality and the truth behind how to ride and ride horses at speed. Now, that's something you don't really hear in the traditional Western culture. And I love everything that you said leading up to it about English. And it's a great way to grow up learning to ride. However, there's so much fear that's instilled with that and control. And so I was taught the opposite. I was taught to let go and to run wide open and to fall off.
And that's what's interesting to me. That actually is the paradigm of Western riding. And there's different paradigms in there, but from way far on the outside, right? That felt like sheer freedom and like the dream. So it's interesting to hear you talk about those beautiful deep roots and then your brave mama, your incredible experience where, man, like it's going through my head, like that kind of education. It kind of reminds me of like Malcolm Gladwell's, like 10,000 hour thing.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. Like it's very rare that someone has access to a skill like that young.
It's Olympic level is what it really is.
Yes.
I'm going to say this as humbly as I can. My mother never let us make excuses and she never let us say no. And so we rode everything and we had to handle everything. And the first time I ever started a colt on my own, I was 8 years old. Because I had this skill and the know-how and I had the experience and the knowledge because I had put it into play. And and now all I'm doing at this point in the stage of my life is just passing that on to those who are a sponge, who are willing to accept it and go, this is also the truth. And I'm willing to do this because I know it's going to change my life and my relationship with horses and myself. And so I think there's so many things we could talk about, but I think just to streamline it and to give you, like, once I stepped out of my younger years in high school rodeo and competing at a big level and everything, when I graduated high school, I went to school for massage therapy because I loved body work and I loved it so much. And then I got married young, had 2 children, divorced him. There was a whole timeline there, took a little break, went through this whole, riding a lot of horses, figuring things out. And then I was introduced to the Mustang Makeover. And the Mustang Makeover, just a quick little premise behind that is it's a competition where you're given a wild horse and you have 100 days to train it, prepare it, and show it in a competition 100 days later. And so it was a way to figure out how to handle the plight of the Mustang problem, which is we have all these horses that our tax-paying dollars are funding, but they don't have homes and they have no purpose and they're multiplying at a 40% rate. So the herd doubles every 4 years. Yeah. So I was introduced to it and I thought, you know what, I'm going to sign up for this. And the Mustang Makeover is what changed my life. The Mustang Makeover is what opened up my heart and soul to growth, to patience, to love, to healing. And I didn't know that walking into the Mustang Makeover. I went into it because I was a single mom and I was so starving and hungry for anything because I was broke. I was living at home. It was a really sad case. And I look back at that version of me and I honor her for where I was, because I was still in the trenches, but I knew I was on my way. And the Mustang Makeover gave me a platform so that I could just showcase my abilities so people could recognize the things I was capable of, even things I didn't know I was capable of. And so that really altered and completely shifted my life at that time. And I think of all of the incredible memories and experiences I've had because of horses and Mustangs especially. And I would be sitting in this room today if it wasn't for Mustangs. And that's what I love about horses is I told all of my students, clients, friends, people I've worked with over the years, if you have a feeling in your heart to do it, say yes. Say absolutely. I'm going to do it. I might be afraid. I might not be well versed. I might not know what I'm doing. I might feel insecure, but I'm going to try. And then you find a good coach and then you just get to it. Right. And so the Mustang Makeover really just opened up my whole world and really gave me the reputation that I had always dreamed of having, which was to be known for doing the difficult thing and doing it with elegance and grace, but also to just leave people like in shock and awe, like, what just happened? Yeah. And that's my gift.
That is your gift. It really is.
It's a ride and fly dragon.
So many gifts of yours are in there that were pinpointed. It's interesting that when you describe that same kind of time as such a transition and in the trenches for you. But for me, you were that pedestal inspiring person. Yeah. So even when we're in these places, you just never know who you are for other people.
Oh, it's like, so true.
Do you know what I mean? Yes. I just felt like there were times where I taught yoga through my divorce and just thought, I am probably doing the biggest disservice to the world right now. And I will run into people today that are like, you changed my life. And I'm like, what? So even though we're going through these transitions and lessons, your gifts are always front and center. Like they're always just shining out there for the people who need them. Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about why a Mustang is different than
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like even mentally, emotionally?
Absolutely. Right? Yeah. So our domestic horses that we raise and breed and reproduce in-house, if you will.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, this is the perfect combination of what I want. I want this sire and this dam. Let me breed the baby. That's great. These horses are not born in a domestic situation. They're born in the wild. And it's very harsh conditions. So these Mustangs are like a hardy little survivor, if you will. So the reason I love a Mustang is because they've never been lied to. I want everyone to hear this. They've never been lied to, which means they've had to go through difficult things because they know what it's like to survive. They know what it's like to be hungry. They know what it's like to be thirsty, tired, hot, cold, from extreme weather temperature changes from like below freezing to 110 plus temperatures. And so they're extremely like sturdy and resilient and can take it. And so when you bring them in and they've never been around humans, you are a predator. You are the enemy. You are the one that's going to kill them and eat them. And they know that. So something along the lines of working with Mustangs is they have to understand how to go from me being a predator to me being the partner. Well, guess what? That's kind of parallel to life, right? There's so many parallelities there. So with wild horses, the number one question any horse has, whether they're wild or not, is, am I safe? Am I safe? So when I work with horses, it's always developing that relationship. You're safe. You can trust me. I'm going to show you the way. Come with me. And so over the years, I've said that whether it's a Mustang or not, horses in general, we are looking for that candidate who is mentally and physically capable of handling the pressure of our world. So imagine living on Mars and somebody brings you to a different planet and says, welcome to Earth. And you're like, what is this place? I have no idea. Mustangs have a very similar feeling. Where am I? Yeah. I'm not with my family. I'm not with my group. I was separated. I was pulled apart. And so because they don't have that exposure, you have to expose them to that and show them the normal that you live in, our world, our universe. So there's some fine line training there, and there's some cause and effect things that show up. So when the Mustang Makeover was introduced to me, I was like, this is fantastic because I think I can develop a relationship with this animal and do things that I never thought I could do. And boy, was I surprised and shocked at how much even bigger it was. So domestic versus wild is very different. However, they're still a horse. They still have all the same qualities. They're just have an innate wildness to them, a protective survival mode, if you will. So I can relate to that.
I was going to say,
I can relate to that.
and I feel like that's why I think a lot of people see their
chills.
stories or hear these things from you, or we'll get to experience something in a clinic with you and we'll just be completely broken and in tears. Like the facility we were working at too was a rehab, and I've done horse on the ground therapy in a couple of different rehabs. And I think that's why, because the human soul gets broken in so many ways.
Totally.
And feels that like, defensive about the world and people in general. And so you see that parallel when you see a wild Mustang mirror that and hear their story about some of these. I heard the story the other day about what they even go through to be caught and vaccinated is like complete trauma. I mean, we're doing the best we can. We're out another wild, but for the horse, it's just another trauma, and that's where you pull them out of. And so when people hear that, and then watch this transformation that you
go from wild to willing, wild to mild. I mean, they literally will turn a corner. And I want to make sure that I say this, and something that I'm really big on is I say I want to turn fear into fun. I want to release the fear, because on the other side of fear is everything you've ever wanted or waited for. It's waiting for you. It belongs to you. It deserves you. But you have to tell fear to buck off. And tell that fear to fuck off, girlfriend. Out there, cowgirl. Tell that fear to buck off.
I think that's why it's so relatable. And I think that's why this is one big thing that I just experienced even this week working with you, on just a depth that I am just like in awe of, that I've seen in you too throughout the years, which is that change of a rider, the change of the human with the animal, which I don't see everywhere. And that is just like, I don't know, it's just like breaks my soul open, and I think that's what you're in it for.
Yeah, because I truly love, share. It's not my gift to keep, it's mine to share.
Yeah.
And my story and my experiences, again, can help people who I never thought would ever touch. And I think of all the times that I was at a competition or late nights or long hours, I would always go out of my way for those people who would approach me and say, I look up to you and this is something. I would stay till the very last person was there. And I watched my mother do that over decades after decades, coaching and teaching and helping and being the drill sergeant for people when they were talking and in their head and making excuses. She would be like, enough.
Yeah.
Let's move on. And it was so great because it allows you to step into accountability. And so I was always taught, just like I said, at a young age, to never quit and to push forward, and that anything's possible if I believe it is.
Okay, so maybe that is the biggest learning. What are some of those lessons that you've learned from horses? Like, how have you transformed as a person from this relationship?
That's a good one. I think this is, and I'm super candid and super transparent and raw and vulnerable.
Yeah.
I will always share my stories. Me, as far as like growing up, there was always, I think everyone struggles through some type of trauma or childhood, something, fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Whether some kind of abuse, whether it's sexual, emotional, physical, verbal, psychological, there's so many different versions of abuse. So, when I was younger, I was molested when I was really young. And I never spoke out about this until the last 3 years. Really spoke out about it. And what I recognized is there were so many people that were surrounding me that were struggling with the same things I was struggling with. I just never spoke about it. And so I made a conscious effort to say, why did these horses come into my world? They were my outlet. They were my escape.
Mm-hmm.
They were my way out of town, if you will. So it allowed me to pull that burden of pain and suffering and heartbreak and shame and guilt and all the things that were associated with that experience as a child that I couldn't control. And I was able to ride it out. I was able to ride it out. And so whether you ride horses or you don't, it's very parallel that we all suffer and we all struggle, but we should share our stories. And I promised myself that I was always going to be an open book and that I would share those times in my life that were so terrible, or I was really struggling, or things were not okay. Because in that tragedy, I knew there was triumph. I knew it. And I asked for the experience some way or another because I knew I was supposed to be an example to other people. And so as I was on my path and was like working through horses and working with Mustangs and problem horses, I was realizing I was developing my lifemanship, not just my horsemanship. The horses came to me to show me the truth about myself. And the horses came there to teach me about patience and love and in all reality, kindness. But I think growing up, I had so much pent up anger and I was just struggling that I was an angry person, but I was kind and I was happy. But deep down, I was really suffering, and it showed in my horsemanship. And so when the Mustangs came along, I started to go, Wylene, you really need to like work on some stuff, you know? And so the horses really just gave me permission to access that which I knew I was always wanting to be. And to be that shining and guiding light for others because I was guiding and shining for myself, you know?
I love that. And like you said earlier, it's about the truth, right?
Yes.
And you said that to me during this clinic too, where you were like, now I see what's going on. I can see like your hands don't lie. The horse doesn't lie. If you could watch it in action, they kind of sift through the truth and then allow you to either face it or not, right? Because if you don't, then you just move on and the problem shows up, you know?
And I love that you said that because I said it earlier. It's like, what's on the other side of that fear? You don't even know because you won't even allow yourself permission to even ask. So when I'm working with horses or humans, either one, I set a position for them and let them answer their own question. I put them into a position of pressure and a little bit of like uncertainty, and they have to figure out how to navigate their way through pressure. Mm-hmm. And I always say that we always want to remove the resistance within horsemanship because if you have resistance, that's where you get hurt. So it's teaching you how to have body control, rein management. And so with horsemanship and along the way of working horses, it turns into like a fine art. I'm going to try to say this the best way I know how. And I just feel like from a young age, there was a cadence that the horse carried that I already knew within my soul. I felt as though I had done it for a millennia, right? Mm-hmm. So when I ride horses, I'm even trying to fine tune it a little bit more and then let some of those like sparkles off of me land on somebody who goes, oh, if you can do that, then I can do that. And so it's giving others the permission to be afraid, to not understand, to not have the knowledge or experience, but to say, you can do this. This is how. Now you have permission to play and practice it.
Oh, that's so big one. I know. I feel like a huge exhale. It's a huge relief because I do have to tell you, I've never heard it anywhere else. And when you said she's allowed to make mistakes, like when you're working with the horses and you're saying they're actually allowed to make mistakes. We're getting forward motion, we're teaching, we're redirecting, but I'm not mad at them because they're allowed to make that mistake. Now we're doing this. I felt like things were getting rewritten in my brain, like just by being like, they are, but weird. But here's the thing. It is that wild though, because when you talk about the kind of upbringing we've had and some sort of, very conservative and restrictive ideas, and those get set in as who you are, especially before 8 years old, right?
It's your identity, yes.
It's just your identity. There is no feedback. We have no way to we have no control. We have no prefrontal cortex for assessment. So it's just taken as the word. And so when that's deeper, right? Than just uprooting some things that happen, later identities you took on later, those younger identities are big. And so I guess I just wanted to make that point. But when you said that, I felt that so deeply because I've been working on that outside the ring my whole life.
Interesting. Yeah.
And so when I am approaching these horses again, it's actually like laying bare like a lot of this work, like a lot of other layers of this work, I guess is how I want to say it.
Which is so parallel, which is why this is beautiful. So let me just thank you right now. This is so cool. It's super powerful because it is the desire of my soul. It is the desire of my soul to do this work. I beg for it. I love it. I realize that the life that I grew up in and everything that led me to this very moment, I asked for. So those who are listening to this know you asked for it. So ask the highest version of yourself, how do you hit the ball out of the park and get the grand slam? So I know that I asked for those tough things, but I also go, and I survived.
No.
And I did it. And I'm going to bring my friends. And I'm going to, and I go, and I realized through this whole like multiple decades, and I said this the other day, each decade I was in a phase or a character, if you will. I played all of these roles. I think all of us do. We all play different roles. And I had labels growing up. And it's just funny how like none of those even exist in my world now. I'm just myself and I love me for me. And I create an environment where we can laugh, where we can learn, where we can let go, where we can cry, where we can connect, all those things. But it just also involves our horses. And it's the dream of mine to create that space because it doesn't exist outside of my world. So I created it because if you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, where are you, my little people?
Well, they're coming.
Yeah.
Is this the first sort of like container that has actually embodied all of those elements? So we're riding like on all of the new colts, right? Like through the desert, rocks and sand. And then Wylene's like, it just came to me. We need to stop. We need to circle up. And we had like a very powerful, like women's circle and releasing and talking about fears and goals and witnessing each other. And at the same time, working through the colt's abilities to hold still.
Mm-hmm.
And when we left, I was like, hey, I just want to know, has she ever done that before? Because in my mind, I was like, this is everything I've been looking for and hoping for and wishing for.
I have this vision, dream, love, like in my heart of hearts, my soul of souls, that I've always said, I'm building the empire of love. Let me explain what that is. The empire of love is a celebration of souls. I think we all have gifts and talents that nobody else possesses. So why are we not coming to a space to share and to acknowledge and to love someone in their greatest, highest version of themselves while they're learning and loving themselves? Because I think there's a lot of self-sabotage, and I think there's a lot of like self-punishment, and I'm not enough, and I'm stupid, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I hear this a lot when I coach, and I go, none of that's true. None of that's true. You're beautiful. You're talented. You have so much to offer the world. Let's share that. And so I started to say, I wanted to create almost I don't know the right word. And I know you know what I'm saying. It's hard to encompass because it's all of the things. It's not just horses. It's humans. It's healing. It's harmony. It's honesty. It's space to be like, I messed up there and I want to try that again. And it's having a support system, a web, if you will, or a network of mindfulness people that are with you in the same space that say, I love you and I'm proud of you and I see you where you are. And that's what I start small, and I know it's just going to slowly grow and build. And I've always desired that because I go, everyone's asking for it. Everywhere I go, someone's like, I've been wanting this. And even if it's not even about their horse or their horsemanship, they're saying it about their life. So my coined phrase is, I want your lifemanship to excel. Your horsemanship will show up too, but it also taglines and bleeds into your real life and your horse life. So whether you ride horses or you don't, some of the things I say and do would hit you right in the heart, like a piercing arrow. As you know, my goal is to get you really thinking and to rattle your cage and to wake you up and to spark your soul so that you can build the wildfire on your own and then spread it as far and fast and wide as you want. That's the empire of love.
Well said.
Welcome in.
Well said.
Welcome in.
And they are banging down the doors.
So,
Yes, and who doesn't want to be around horses? Like, that is what I get every time I post a picture of a horse. Someone's like, "Get me near a horse,"
and why do you think that is? I think the reason that there's something about the inside of the horse that changes the inside of man. They say that, like Winston Churchill, I think, said that. And I feel that they're so beautiful and majestic. And when you know that you have the power in the pinky to manage and control that powerful being, that beast, if you will, that dragon that lacks the wings but still has the capacity of a dragon, it's one of the most monumental, life-changing, life-altering experiences. Like even when you did the lay down with your horse and that grounding exercise of safety on the ground, nobody talks about those things. So I open up that space to practice and play and to do the things that are difficult, but also very necessary. Because if you think about it, we must do dangerous things safely. Nobody talks about how to do that. Everybody rides in fear. Everybody holds on in fear. And so I'm constantly saying, you can let go now. You can release your life. You can let go of it. Let go of to what you're holding on to. Because that parallels right into your life.
Yeah, right into your right.
And your horse is a mirror of you.
Yeah. And I love that so much, because some things that I know are some of those basic needs, and trust is a big one, and trust in yourself. So when you have earned that with the beast, and you see that, you build that trust and resilience in yourself too, and you hold yourself accountable and you feel that responsibility.
Absolutely.
Which is huge. I also do happen to know, because of the anatomy studies, my other little hobby I do, that when we measure, like in the Heart Math Institute or something, your coherence and your aura will get bigger if your heart and your mind are in coherence, and if you have an elevated emotion.
Yeah.
So just naturally, any given horse on any given day, because they're not like us and they don't have that prefrontal cortex, their heart and brain is 99% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, in coherence. And they have a aura radius. They have a electromagnetic field, a torus field of about 30 feet. So that is a resonant frequency, like in cats purr, that will help you co-regulate. So the other thing I wanted to mention that was so important about what you're creating is it's like the epitome of embodiment. It's like the babies don't learn, the children can't learn by themselves. And we also aren't traumatized by ourselves and can't heal by ourselves. And so this thing about not being alone is extremely important in the right ways, right? Like not in enmeshment and codependency, but learning how to be around and in proximity with someone who is embodied with the things that you're talking about and you've learned actually is imperative. It's the only way to heal. And so I just wanted to mention that, because you can't heal on your own. You actually need a co-regulated torus field. You need the thing to go wrong.
Yes.
And then you need someone like you were there for me, say, like, actually, let me model in my body, in my words, in my body language, in my coaching, and, my behavior, and in my actual embodied emotion, because you can say it, but if you really are angry or disappointed, that's what we feel, right?
Yes.
So what you need is actually someone being where you're at, creating these spaces where other people can come and feel that and bump up against their edges and their vulnerability and do the mess up, but then have the new experience of, okay, I really messed that up. I pulled on that horse's mouth, and now I feel shame and guilt and like inadequacy. But Wylene's here modeling to me that actually you're allowed to make a mistake. She's allowed to make a mistake. Now let's teach you something better and fix it. And I'm supporting you. And so all of that process, I said really quickly, but we know it's very nuanced and it's very sticky and it's very difficult to navigate. And so that's why I just wanted to say, you guys, if you've been on retreats, right? If you've been in places or in therapy where that person is embodied, you know that the reason you've been able to get a leg up or learn something right? Or regulate is because someone's exemplified it for you or with you. And so that's why what you're creating is like so mind blowing, because all of that is imperative.
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you. And when we spoke the first time, I'm like, why do I just love this? Every ounce of this. I'm like, this is just the beginning.
I feel like
I was literally on the phone. I'm like, what massive things are going to happen here? I don't know what that is. I just know it's going to align. And I've gotten to where here's something I learned that was a big one for me over the last 2 years. I stopped chasing anybody. I stopped trying to prove to someone I was enough. I stopped trying to find people that would appreciate me. Now I just am. Oh, and guess what? They find me because they hear it through reputation. They hear it through word of mouth. They have the experience. And something I was going to mention is like when we were riding today, I was kind of talking about how horses are allowed to mess up.
Yeah.
They make mistakes all the time. And where we go wrong is we try to micromanage them. And I want to make sure I mention this because it's come up in my mind several times as we've been speaking. With horses, very similar to humans, in order for them to remember and to have that muscle memory, that emotion has to move. So, emotion, if you remove the E, you still have motion. So horses, especially, the more they move their feet, the more their brain can calculate, and then they connect the dots. The more pressure they're put underneath during that movement is how they remember. Same with you. Today, you felt it when it was correct because it was in your body. You physically felt it. That's why just talking about it, dreaming about it, you need to physically put your leg over the horse's body and again, embody that and then allow the horse to move so you can feel the movement so you don't panic with the palate. But instead you harness it. And just like the movie Avatar, for those who've seen it, you connect your tail to that horse's tail, to that dragon. And yes, you might have to wrestle that sucker to the ground and whisper in its ear and bite it a little and get it dialed in so you can bring it back to you and say, I'm a leader. I know what I want and I'm taking you where we're going. But what we do is we take a back seat and let them drive the school bus. And they're like, hey, we're going to take a pit stop. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And so guess what? I like to put, no pun intended, the reins in someone's hands and say, your life is in your hands. So is your horse.
And how many times do we do that to ourselves everywhere else?
Oh, true.
Would it be okay if I share my experience yesterday today?
I love it all.
Okay. So I want you guys to know like what, just like as a little, like snapshot of like one specific thing that happened for me at the end of every day. Wylene's always like, what did you learn?
Today. I learned something.
And you're just kind of like this deer, like, what didn't I learn? Like,
like drinking from a fire hydrant.
Yes.
Okay.
So you're like, oh, I learned so much about myself. But I think yesterday was a big day for me because I kind of left it feeling a little defeated. And I give myself a lot of credit outside of the arena because just like you had all that time on the horses, I had it in this other arena. And I feel like I can be really embodied with people, and connect with them and have these very quick reflexes that allow them to be empowered and kind of find those doors out themselves and support them in that. And that's what my soul feels so called to. Like, that's what lights me up. That's like, these are some gifts that I got to like do these things, So I was feeling like I should know what I should do. I can handle this. Like, I knew I came here for this emotion. Like, I came for the growth and I knew Wylene was the person. Like, I knew I was running right into the fire. And still, when you get there and you feel it, there's nothing like palatable about it. You know what I mean? Like, even if you know it's going to happen, you're there and you're there all over again. Right. And I just felt like defeated in a lot of areas, right, of my life history. I was like, it's okay. And I was able to talk about it. And I came back to my Airbnb and I like cried it out and processed it out. And like, Wylene's words were like repeating in my mind, like, it's okay to make mistakes. You're just learning. It's your first day. Learn these things. And also all the coaching, right? Like all of the ways you were pointing out, like, this wasn't fast enough. And why are you backing off? And, and all these things. So I like let all that emotion move through my body last night and this morning and was like, today's a new day.
Yes, absolutely.
And because that happened, when those things came up today, you guys, so I was like a little afraid of the speed on my horse because I didn't have this balance. She said, well, I didn't have the balance and the habits in my body to deal with that kind of shift. And so my things were like catalyzing and making it worse, like some kind of throwing some fuel on the fire when I got off balance, right? And she didn't know what to do, but because I didn't know what to do, I couldn't help her.
Sure.
And so,
And it's all cause and effect.
yes. So I was just in full clarity of all of that. And so today, when some of those things stuck in and we went on that ride and it was awesome. And I was practicing my things the whole time, but we got back in this arena. This is one thing I wanted to share. I think Wylene, well, I know she could tell that I was like on this like precipice edge of like my power or going back to my old ways. And I was like, I don't know if I want to do the drills on my horse. And you made me do it. Like she didn't let me get off the horse because I was like, maybe you want to ride her. And then I feel like this is what was so important, and it's important inside and outside of the ring. What I've learned is that like there is that pivotal moment, like Wylene always says, it's timing. And so when you see that, right, like she saw me on this edge and was like, actually, what I want you to do, actually what you're going to do. And I went like, and she was like, what you're going to do.
You're going to work on it.
Yes. You're going to take off in the lope and then you're going to do this and you're going to practice. And I was like, I'm going to do it.
You're like, gulp.
Yes, I was like, big gulp. And I was like, this is what I came for though. And Wylene's telling me I can do it. And also because Wylene has built trust up over so many days, I know she wouldn't put me in a dangerous position either. And we've talked about day one is all about safety, right? And all these things. So that's a big thing, I think, as well. And so because you had built that trust with me as well, when she told me I was going to do it, I was like, honey, I'm going to do it. She's like, breathe. And I did it. And it wasn't pretty at first, actually. And she did try to send me. But in my mind, I was like, what would Wylene do? And I was like, what would who I know I am do? Like it got me over the bridge. And that's why you started screaming and you were like, you wrote it and you shut down.
Just so you girls, guys, and whoever's listening, just so you know, Crystal did some cowgirl beep out there. And literally her horse was at a high-low, which means she was clicking around and pretty fast. And her horse double barrel kicked out. And I'm talking like what you'd see in a rodeo, okay? And she was literally just sitting in the middle like, anyways, and then just shut it down. And I went, I've done my work. She learned because you never got afraid. You just shut it down.
Yeah.
And that is powerful because the horse went, I can no longer do that to my mother. She is no longer going to tolerate that. And because of that, and I love that you said that you know that I wouldn't put you in a compromising position. So a big thing that I do with a lot of my students is I say, you can do this. Let me show you how first. Let me get on your horse and show you that it's possible. Then I'm going to put you back in the cockpit of the plane and then you're going to go fly. Don't hit a mountain.
Yeah. And that's what she had done because you had rode her yesterday.
Right.
And it was like my turn. But yeah, I just want to share that story because what happened after that hump and why it was so important to be intuitive and be on that precipice and to have Wylene be supportive and to have someone in your corner embodying that and not be in codependency with you and not being like, let me take it out of your hands and show you how. Let me do this for you, right? Like, especially as a healer in the healing world as well, I've learned that lesson. What sometimes you're just like, or you know what I mean? Like, get off. Let me do the thing. You're good. Go on. Right. Mm-hmm. But that moment is so important because after that happened, I just felt like, oh, myself come back. And I was like,
you came back into your body.
Yes.
Yes. Because you felt it. You were in it and you were in the middle of that incredible like explosion that she gave you. You were like, anyway, I can defuse a bomb. Like you didn't even, you like two snaps and you're like, I can handle you. And she was like, oh.
That faith and trust in myself had to be done by me. Like, why? You could have never done it for me. As pretty as you made her look, I couldn't, I had to feel it. And then, you know, even through the drills and the pulls later, even though there were mistakes made, I felt like I had stepped over that hump of knowing that I could hold the line now. Like it was just this massive shift. And I was like, that's what I came for. Like, that's what I came for. And so we kind of walked through the, like, I wanted to share that story because I wanted to exemplify the mechanics of everything Wylene's talking about, everything we're talking about here in a container is an imperative step you cannot skip
100%.
to getting those life shifting changes.
It's true. It's true. And you have to do the hard thing. So you know what I tell everybody? Embrace the suck, man. You're going to be tired. You're going to be sore. That's life. Yeah. And if you start to complain, I tell all my riders, if they come whining and complaining to me, I'm like, get a new hobby, babe. Get a new hobby. Because this is hard work. You're going to be physically like active. You're going to be mentally active.
Yeah.
Can you master the long game? Like the mind game? Can you play the role? Because the horse is going to toy with your emotions. The horse is going to hold you accountable. The horse will tattletale on you, if you will. The horse will always know. And that's why I love horses, because as soon as I see a horse, I go, oh, I know everything I need to know about that person.
Mm-hmm.
That's my gift, is being able to see what's already in front of me without anyone saying a word.
And it's like we want it. Like people want it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like that. You like don't want to be called out, but like you do. So I think that's why it's important what you said. If you feel called to it, you need to do it, because what's on the other side, I'm left today. And I think I said it like 10 times. I was like, I just feel so like fired up. Like I feel like I'm back to myself. I feel powerful. I feel like I have tools. I feel like I have like emotional support. You know,
because you're in the soul search.
Yes.
You are literally, I'm sparking your soul and you're in the soul search, which is why I named the business like Soul Search Equine, because I kind of shifted that over the last couple of years. I was always known as Extreme Wylene. And I didn't really go into detail about all the things I've accomplished. I don't really love to talk about myself, but I was involved in a documentary that went on Netflix. And then there was like NatGeo Wilds. And then I won Mustang Makeovers. And then I was in Road to the Horse, and like a lot of firsts for the females. Like I always came in from like the back and I was competing against men most of the time and beating them. Yeah. And so
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say that at the end so that people knew where to find you and could go look up your credibility and all the things and hear all those beautiful things, because there's no way we could do it here in a podcast. And I want people to just be like, go drink more from the hose and then meet us in Washington and Colorado and
come to the places. Yeah. And here's the thing. I want to really share this before we finish this up, because I think this is really valuable and important for me to say out loud. I've always put I don't know the right way to say this, but I just put it out there to the universe that I'm in the trifecta. And let me share with you what that is. The trifecta to me is, there's a horse trainer on every corner. If you think about it, everybody's a horse trainer. Like they'll be like, oh, I know how to ride a horse and I can fix that. So you're going to find a horse trainer. Those are easy to find. What's difficult to find is somebody who's a horse trainer who's also a good teacher, right? We know a lot of people who might ride and train horses, but they're not a good teacher. They're not a good coach. Or you find somebody who's a great coach, but they're not a good horse trainer, right? So you have somebody who can teach you, but they can't train a horse. There's that. Okay. So I say what the trifecta is somebody who is an amazing horse trainer, who's an amazing coach and teacher, who's also genuinely invested and in your camp with you, who is your friend. And so when someone comes to my world, in my universe, in my classroom, if you will, which is the arena, which is God's beautiful country, like all the places we go and all the amazing landscape we get to put our footprints on. And I say, thank you everywhere we go. To me, that is the trifecta of saying, I will spend all day and all night and dive in deep with you, and I will laugh and I will cry and I will hold space and I will love you through it, because I know where you are. I see you. And I just find that there's nobody out there like that. So I knew it was my obligation to step up and take the mic and say, I will conduct this entire concert, and everyone is going to walk out of here sweating and laughing and loving it, and you'll have every minute of it. And they're going to be fist pumping and like, and hugging and crying and being like, when do we go back for more of that? And so I have a really hard time labeling anything I do, because I don't want to label it. Because if I was to ask you right now, how was your experience? What would you say?
I probably wouldn't say anything. I'd probably just go. And if you're not, and I have this on YouTube too. If you're listening to the audio of this, go for sure watch it on my YouTube or on our socials, because Wylene is like gorgeous and beautiful and wearing her cute hat. And then you can see the like hand movements and expressions. But
It's twice
it's
as
hard
big
to say.
on the horse.
But that resonates with me. I know exactly what you're talking about because I train people in energy work and yoga. And sometimes it's easier to take the more mature woman or natural born teacher and give her the gifts or just enable her, unlock her power, just support that, than it is to take someone, if they want to be a teacher, right? Because there's those people that want to practice, but it's a super rare trifecta. And actually, I did want to cover this if you feel up for it, because I feel like that's a good segue to like that third trifecta we're talking about. There's something about that. And I would, like, for me, I would add the word spirituality in there.
See, and that's now where I'm at in this version of me.
Yeah.
Now that I'm in this, like I am literally just conducting my entire like universe, and I feel like I'm the oracle or the queen of the kingdom, and I'm like, who's in my kingdom and who deserves space here? Off with his head, off with her head. They don't deserve, they don't appreciate. They're not here to celebrate with me and say, yes, I'm afraid, I'm worried. So I love the spiritual side of it. And I also say that I don't want someone to feel like a number in my book. You could pick up the phone at 2 a.m. and call me and go, I'm out here on my horse and I'm really struggling, and I would talk with you because I genuinely, ultimately care and love my people and my horses. And so I think that there's a rare gift there, that there's not a lot of that in my industry. And so I create it. And I hope to share it and teach it to others so they become the trifecta.
I was going to mention that too, because I saw you do that with that girl this week too, where she does have aspirations, and you were like funneling it out, like giving her tools to do this and create this where you are.
Yeah.
And I noticed all great spiritual teachers do that. Like when I was at an Eckhart Tolle lecture, someone stood up and asked this question. He was like a doctor and a manager of like this certain hospital and set of practices. And he was like, will you come? Because I've noticed this and teach this to my doctors. And Eckhart Tolle was like, will you do that there? And I saw him do that this week as well. And I was like, not because you're rising these people up and flowing it out, because like you said, there's enough for everybody. And
absolutely.
Influence is so powerful. And Kate, the other part of this is actually specifically the divine feminine. And I think that is like a big learning for me in the last 5 years as well.
Well, me too. Okay, I'm just
so to be able to stand into that, I wonder if you'd be just willing to share a little bit, as much or as little as you want, of some of the things that have helped you along that path to build up that container you hold so well, which is spiritual and divine feminine, which is all the things, right? Because I want to say, I do talk about this a lot on my podcast, and people know me. I have taught courses in this, not that I'm the expert or anything, but what I mean is I've tried to share multiple facets of this. And so we should know, if you don't know, that it is creativity, boundary holding, power. It's like arousal. It's also authenticity. It's also flow. It's also emotions. And so when I say divine feminine, I don't mean that it's against anything. It's more like all encompassing, and the rising of the mother is good for everybody. And so I don't know why, I just wanted to set that like maybe bigger container for like what I see when someone's able to hold the divine feminine, like kindness and power and support and accountability all in their spirituality. I just think it's not for nothing. Like there are some ways that get you there. Would you be willing to share some of your experiences and how you fully step into that?
So absolutely. And so I've always been pretty spiritual, pretty connected to things. I always knew I was really gifted. Not so much that I can like see or hear things, but I feel. So is that clear? What's the clear? When you
clear vessel, when you feel.
When I feel. Yeah. So when I would watch horses or humans, I would just be like, wow, that's interesting. I can feel that, like more empathy, like.
And can you like feel the pain in the shoulder?
No, like a little bit. Yes. However, I started noticing the patterns over the years of working with horses and humans all the time. And I knew that I was on my own awakening, my own journey, because I stepped away from religion about 6 years ago. And it was only after my father passed away, who I was super tight with. And, and anyway, after he passed away, I ended up doing a reading with someone who I'm super close with. That's a medium that connects to horses and humans and all of it. He can connect to angels. And so during that reading, my dad came through and gave me a lot of insight from the other side. So I don't know what your thoughts are on all that, but I'm just saying this was my experience. So my dad comes through and he starts telling me all these things. And I'm just like, wait a second, let me get this right. Everything we've ever been taught, none of it is real. Am I understanding that right? And then I went, so what world do I want to create? How does that come? Does it come from me or does it come from everyone else who's told me how to live and be? Whose life am I living? I realized right then I was living everyone else's version. Wasn't who Wylene was. And I was so effing miserable, but I was so pretty on paper, right? Like, it was like, oh, everything's great. And I would go, I'm a train wreck. I don't even like my life, you know? That's so authentic. So here's what I did.
So relatable.
Thank you. And so through a course of just being like, I'm struggling. I'm trying to figure out. And then I stumbled upon Louise Hay. That's where I started. Louise Hay with like, you can heal your life. Got into that. Then through Louise Hay, I found out about Wayne Dyer, got into him. Then about the Tao. And then so I started getting all these spiritual practices and starting to say like, I've done all the things I learned through religion, but what would it look like if I approached it from a different point of view and just became a student and acted like I didn't know anything? And then when 2020 happened during COVID, I stumbled upon TikTok. I don't know if anybody else has had this experience, but then I realized there was a whole spiritual TikTok and like tarot TikTok and all these amazing TikTok accounts that I was like, these are my people. And so that's when I stumbled upon QHHT and Dolores Cannon and learning about like quantum, like healing, hypnotic therapy to literally regress you in past timelines. And so I'm telling you, there was something that happened in my life at 42 where I shifted and I was like, I've done this work before. I know I'm supposed to help people. What does this look like? What do I need to do? And then I said, I need to do a regression. I need to figure out where is all of this coming from? It's not even from this timeline. It's from a different timeline. So then I did that. And in my regression, my higher self came through and told me how to heal. And I was very specific. So
As you would be.
As I would be. And I came through and I started talking about actually plant medicine. And I told myself, this is what Wylene needs to do to heal. And there was very specific instructions. And so I left that experience and went, I can see my world, my life in such a different perspective. And I have so much gratitude for it. Even through all the turmoil and bullshit and like trauma and pain and suffering and heartbreak, I was like, there's so much beauty and bliss here. And there's so much tangible, like juiciness. And so I loved it. And so I stepped away and was like, who do I know that can help me with plant medicine? I made one phone call and I was literally probably 2 weeks later, I was here where we are right now, experiencing plant medicine in 2021 is the first time I ever did it. And that completely altered my existence of understanding who I really was. Mm. So in that moment, I actually met Wylene. Mm. I found her. I said hello again. I remember who you are. I'm sorry I left you. I'm sorry I walked away. I'm sorry that I ever doubted or had disbelief that you existed. I knew authentically I was real and I was meant to hold space on this planet and to put my feet in the soil and to claim it and to know that I could make a difference in the world. And I knew I was going to create a tidal wave. All I was looking for were those surfers who were ready to paddle and catch it with me. Right? And so after doing plant medicine is where I realized I really was a healer. And I really have been doing this for a long time. I'm just remembering who I am. So I try to remind my friends, my soul tribe, all the people that I love. Who are you actually? Now let's put that on the back of your horse and let's go fly the dragon. Because welcome to Neverland goes, put a little fairy dust in your face and we're flying places, girlfriend. Keep going. Yeah. So that's my short little rundown of that. But I did authentically step into my highest version of myself. And I said, those who are with me will rise up and celebrate that. Those who are not will fall away on their own account. I'm done chasing. I'm done convincing. If I'm not your cup of tea, I might be your shot of whiskey, but you're welcome.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. And I think it's so valuable for you to share that, because in watching that or being around somebody who steps into that, that is almost like the permission that a lot of us need, right? Like that's how I've experienced it a lot of times.
Yeah.
And that's how I see people experiencing it. And so thank you so much for sharing that. And really the way to that is in and down and on the ground and drop in.
Mm-hmm.
And that, like, the path is just so like, stop everything you're doing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Follow that intuition that you know. I've never heard of any other story going into plant medicine. It's that always that syncopated and that explicit, because it is so meaningful. And I do believe everything you said, and I have experienced everything you said. So it is a reality, and it's one that you can choose.
It's so true.
By moving inward. And when you do, that's why I love how Wylene always says, what's on the other side? Paradise.
Paradise is on the other side.
And that's kind of where I feel like this divine feminine steps in, because when it's just like you've got to believe it and step into it. And then once you see it for the first time and you're like, this is what's available to us, like this frequency, this emotion, this synchronicity, this way of being in life. And I don't mean that it's all bliss.
True.
Because it's also a way of being, like I described to you my experience last night. But I was present for all of it.
But the turbulence levels out, right?
But what did you say? Like the juiciness of it? Like the tactile experience of me being in a puddle on the floor and moving inward, and my just observation and awareness of my ability to do that was a gift in and of itself, was something I was looking forward to. Like, it's like the suffering and the joy seems like it's on opposite ends of the spectrum, but it's not. It's all still 0-point focus. It's the same moment, the same hormones released in your body when you're in pain as when you're in ecstasy.
It's true, because I tell my writers, you say you're nervous, or you say you're scared or you're nervous. I said, no, you're excited. Your body doesn't know the difference. So tell yourself, I'm excited. I'm so excited. I'm so excited.
And that seems to be because of all of that you've done in the mind shift that you're always saying. I want you guys to have this tool before we end. Wylene always gives this amazing gift of how to visualize what you want and send mind pictures, and, come to her things if you want to experience all of that. But I feel like that important piece of it, I also learned through some of the practices you shared. I learned through people on the other side telling me. I learned through meeting my higher self, and I learned that what do we call it? It's not like a talent, but it's like an availability to us we didn't know we had, like a way of communicating and a way of projecting and a way of magnetizing. I feel like that wasn't available to me. I didn't know about that.
Right. I think too that there's just a lot of tradition out there, if you will, like tradition. And I'm so ready to just burn it all down. That's where I'm at. Burn it all down. None of it is this. It's all BS, because you get to create your version, period.
Yeah.
And I don't care if it's horsemanship. I don't care if that's race car driving. I don't care if that's accounting. I don't care if that's just being a mother. You get to create that. And if you're not happy in your world, shift it. Get a mentor, get a coach, step out of your comfort zone, write those things down, surround yourself with mindfulness people who see it, who get it, who understand it. Which I will say this about you. The other night when we were here talking, I was just equally just as in awe of you as you are of me, watching you being in your ish. I mean, being in the freaking, you are in the current, and watching you is just like this anomaly. You just know who you are, and you've worked through so many things, and it's so relatable, but it's also, you're so gifted, and we can all learn something from you. We can all walk away going, I know Crystal, and that girl, she got a hold of me by the ears. She woke me up,
And we feel it. We feel it when we've done the work and we've unearthed the things and we're in the flow and like we've got those reins. We feel it.
Which is why I feel like, in a sense, that when we met and we talked, even 15 years later, it was like a day never left. It was still the same Crystal and Wylene. It was just, we are a higher version of ourselves. We're Crystal 2.0, Wylene 2.0.
I feel what you're saying.
A lot of life has happened in between, but it's all right back to that 0 point again. And now it's like something I try to remind my riders with is, let's be kids. Can we be 12 and go to Neverland? I'm going to sprinkle a little fairy dust on you, and you're going to fly with Peter Pan. Yeah. And you get to remind yourself who you are and that you are capable because you are in bliss. You are in joy. You are in happiness. When you ride, it should feel like nothing. My mom used to call it the fabulous feel. Ooh. Sometimes better than an orgasm. Just saying.
I felt that today.
Fantastic.
And you saw me because I did go like this. You felt that. And I was like, that did happen. And actually, if you guys
like to move
yes. And if you guys ever do come to Wylene's stuff, she's freaking hilarious. Like, it is so funny.
That is true.
It is so, like, it is so funny, right? My face hurts sometimes. And then other times we're eating sandwiches in the dirt, while the horses are laying there. And then other times we're crying. And then it's incredible.
It's definitely a full submersion experience. And I don't think there's a space like it out there. And I continue to just see it growing bigger and developing and bringing in the right team and bringing in the right experienced members and people that are really like ready to level up, put some skin in the game and go, I need help. Yeah. I'm apprehensive, but I'm ready and I'm willing to do it. If I have someone standing in front of me saying that, I'm like, we are going to literally hit the ball out of the park. It's going to be a grand slam. It's out of the...
I have kind of a logistical question because I've gone through this in my containers I've created in the past, which is you're so capable of all of it, like taking even like more of a beginner through that confidence, right? Of course, but you're so highly skilled at fine-tuning professionals, which I watch you do as well, that I almost wonder too, in your vision, when you see all of that coming together, is that all blended or are you creating different containers for those things?
Totally different.
Okay.
So I see a horse and a person where they are, and then I build the program around that specific scenario case, if you will. And to me, I've done it so much. Mm-hmm. It's like a conveyor belt. You know how they're like looking for bad onions or bad avocados or what? I literally go, okay, it's not that, it's this. And I can literally delegate and figure out where I'm going to put my energy and effort into that specific case. And then I'll normally send them home with homework and say, hey, these are the things you need to work towards. Okay. And call me if you need, follow up. Let me know you're still alive out there. You're wild blue yonder riding your dragon. Like you're still with me. You're still in the flight club. Okay, we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That's kind. Yeah, I appreciate that. I feel like so good about this circle that we kind of made through this line, through kind of like your life and your learnings, and who you are as a person, what you're creating. And then at the end, if we feel like this is the end, do you feel like we're kind of coming to I always like to ask, is there anything like left on your heart or in your body or anything you just want out there or want to say or want people to know?
I definitely want people to know if they're listening that number one, you're not alone. Number two, you're safe. And number three, you're so capable beyond what you could ever imagine. You alone hold yourself back. You alone hold yourself back. So when someone looks at me and goes, I'm ready and I believe you and I know that you can help me, then the sky literally just opens up and any opportunity that you can ever possibly dream of becomes reality. And I firmly believe that. I truly do. And I know that as people listen to this or watch it, they're probably like, oh, that makes sense. I feel that. And so trust your instincts. When you're ready, the teacher will appear. I don't chase anyone. When you're ready to get your ass kicked and like laugh and cry more than you ever have and like goof off and have fun, but also honor and recognize your strengths and weaknesses, you'll call me. You'll reach out. You'll be like, I know I'm ready and I know I need this. Just like you knew you needed it. You're like, this is perfect timing. And I said the same thing to myself because I was ready to also kick my business into a different gear, which is more the spiritual and sacred side of the horse world, because nobody really talks about it. Because the old cowboy mentality is, don't cry. You just tough it up. You just break a leg and get back on. It's like, don't cry, spit on it, throw a little dirt on it, and move on. Yeah. I literally can see people in their experience, and I just really try to hold space and say, if you need to talk through this, let's talk through it now. Let's not harbor this. Let's release it. And so there's an amazing, blissful world out there that you don't know you're living in if you don't experience it, if you don't believe you deserve it. So know you deserve. Start there. Every morning I do affirmations. I started 3 years ago looking in the mirror and saying, Wylene, I love you and I'm so proud of you. You deserve true love and you deserve true happiness. I started there. And my whole entire world unfolded and fell apart so it could come together. So if you think it's the end of your life, I got news for you. It's not. It's just the beginning. Say thank you. Embrace the suck. If you're in a hard place, ask yourself, what is the lesson? Smile. Have gratitude. Sit in that feeling of I'm alive in this body. And I deserve to experience the things that I was born to experience in this life. Bring it to me. Bring it to me. Ask your angels. Ask your higher self. I mean, there's a bazillion ways to go about it. I think a lot of people don't know. Obviously, your community does. But in the Western culture, there's a lot of people who are really behind the game, So I try to introduce that, we're going to go, I don't really love the word woo-woo. I just love the word, spiritual and sacred, because to me, we all have it within us. So do horses in their own way. And I just love to bring out and help you shine from the inside out. And I have hope that that's how you walked away or ran away or jogged away or skipped out of the barn. And just feeling like you're on fire. Like you said, it's just like a drug. You just want more of it. And it's addictive because once you tap into it, you go, there's more of that. It's the bottom of the well is endless. And that's why I'm come drink from the well. I'll show you the way. And I just want to give those wizard tools so they can be their own equine wizards. And so they understand how to problem solve, how to think through hard things, how to not panic, how to do difficult things safely, how to love, laugh, let go, and learn, and to read their horses and to understand what's going on around them. And so many people are so unaware of that. And so just to be better and to strive for more. Yeah. And so life is too beautiful to not be living in it. So just be alive in your body. That's the best advice. You never know until you try. So get out there, and laugh and smile and surround yourself with a great troop, a good group of people that you love to be around, that even if they're strangers, you met strangers this week who turned into friends. It's just one of you see that you're parallel, right? You have similar stories and you can be relatable. And I just continue to build it. And it takes a team. I'm not alone in this effort, as you know. And when someone puts me on a pedestal, I say, well, the turtle never got over the fence post by himself. She had to be lifted up there and put there. So that I have to always give credit where credit's due. There's people that I wouldn't be where I am today without the support and the love that I have been given tremendously. So, and I continue to just hopefully leave a trail of happiness and, and people walking away just spilling glitter on their face. Like they've just come back from the best concert of their life,
That is the feeling. Yeah. That's the way to describe it. Those should be all the little taglines. And when you go to sign up for the clinics online.
Mm-hmm. Got a lot of taglines.
I love that. And trust in it too. I just love all that advice. It's so beautiful. Cause actually when I was felt called to be someone said your name and I was that's who I need. And when I was ticket, trying to find you, actually, it wasn't all perfect in perfect timing. I just sent a deposit, actually.
I remember that.
Do you remember? I was I don't really know how this is going to come together. I just know that's where I need to be. And I sent it. And then what happened?
I ended up doing a totally different clinic.
You ended up calling me and being none of this worked out. And actually, it's these dates and it's going to be in this location. And that was perfect.
So when I was on the phone with you driving, I was well, I'm not going to be doing Idaho. Instead, we're going to go to Utah. And you're I live in Utah. I was fantastic. This is so much more in alignment. See, when you're trying to make something work that doesn't, just accept that, let go of the outcome. That's what we both did.
Yeah.
And that's how beautiful it showed up, which is why I let go of the outcome. I put my intentions out there, ask my angels to bring it to me, and I let go of how it shows up.
That's it.
This is why you're on the couch now.
That's the message. I feel like that's when you start stepping into it. And that's the process.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
No, thank you so much.
Kiki.
I love you so much. This is so wonderful.
So much. Okay, so let's just say verbally at the end, and you guys, I will tag all this in the notes. How do you want people to follow you and get a hold of you? And like, where if they're like, oh my gosh, I need to connect with her, where do they go?
Absolutely. You can just type in Wylene Wilson. Anything Wylene Wilson. It's on Instagram, TikTok.
Okay.
My website is Extreme Wylene. Of course, we'll search equine. It comes up that way. Any social media handle you can think of, I have one. And I do clinics and workshops all over the country. I travel all over. I'm on the road full time. So it's not hard to find me. You just have to get on socials. If you struggle with that, you can always email me at soulsearchequine@gmail.com. That's my email address. But you can find a lot of information on the website. Katrina has it all loaded up and really ready to go. A lot of information on there. And if you are interested and you don't see a space that you can occupy and you want to do something where you are, we easily do that as well. So if you want to host something or put something together, I can fluctuate from all the way from beginning, all the way to the most advanced riders, from horses that have never been handled that are wild, all the way to the Olympic level. So everything in between, I can kind of float between that, which is my gift.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a Jill of all trades.
I love that. Well, thank you. Satnam. Namaste. Thank you for listening. Connect with me on Instagram at Crystal Zen Yoga. Subscribe on my website at crystalzenyoga.com to receive tools and practices for your holistic journey and to be the first to know about offerings, workshops, trainings, and retreats. We live in powerful times that require courage, bravery, compassion, authenticity, community, and grounding. You're not alone. Check out my free content, classes, and meditations on YouTube under Crystal Zen Yoga and have a beautiful day. Satnam.